It started with an email. Subject, quick sync, 9 a.m. No details, no agenda. Just a meeting invite from David Morgan, my boss. I glanced at the clock, 8:43. Quick syncs didn't happen at our company, especially not first thing Friday morning, especially not without warning. I saved my spreadsheet, locked my screen, and made the slow walk down the hall to the corner office. The walls of our building were glass, clean lines, expensive chairs, all meant to impress visiting clients. Today, it just felt cold. David was already sitting when I knocked lightly and stepped in. No handshake, no smile, just a curt nod to the chair across from him. Vanessa from HR sat in the corner, legal pad balanced on one knee, pen in hand. Not a good sign. "Nathan," David began, voice as casual as someone ordering coffee. "This isn't easy, but we're making some organizational changes. Your position is being eliminated, effective immediately." I blinked once, then nodded slowly. Not surprised, not really. He pushed a folder across the table toward me like it was radioactive. Severance terms, final paycheck details, a memo about returning company property. "We appreciate everything you've done," he added, like an afterthought, rehearsed and meaningless. I scanned the papers without picking them up. Neatly typed lies. "Understood," I said. My voice was calm, steady, no argument, no scene. That's not my way. David seemed relieved at my reaction, as if he'd been bracing for something worse. Vanessa started talking about COBRA coverage and final expense reports, but I barely heard her. I was already rewinding the last 6 months in my mind, piecing together the warning signs I hadn't wanted to admit. The canceled meetings, the sudden shift in project assignments, the way Evan Mercer, the golden boy from marketing, started asking about Vanguard Industries, my client, my work. Betrayal wasn't new to me. In the Army, I'd learned to spot it early, a glance too long, a question asked too casually. I'd ignored it here because I thought this place was different. It wasn't. I stood, shook David's hand because that's what a professional does, and left without another word. As I walked back to my office, one thought kept repeating in my head. They think this is the end. They have no idea what they've started. Vanguard Industries wasn't just a client. They were the client. 40% of our firm's annual revenue came from their contracts, manufacturing logistics, supply chain consulting, overseas compliance, the kind of sprawling, high-stakes work that could make or break a whole division. And no one wanted to deal with them. They were high maintenance, demanding, mercurial. Their CEO once fired an entire regional team because he didn't like the font on a PowerPoint. Their VP of operations had a reputation for shredding consultants during meetings. Before I took over, Vanguard had cycled through 3 account managers in 18 months, burned out, transferred, quit. David gave me the account 3 years ago, not because he thought I'd succeed, but because no one else would touch it. "You're good under pressure," he said at the time, like tossing a live grenade my way. He wasn't wrong. I didn't try to charm Vanguard. I didn't overpromise. I didn't panic when they blew up over minor issues. I listened, took notes, delivered what I said I would. And when things inevitably went wrong, because they always did, I was the guy who showed up at their offices at 7 a.m., sleeves rolled up, ready to fix it. They didn't like me. They respected me. There's a difference. 2 years ago, when a system failure in Shanghai nearly derailed one of their biggest product launches, it was me who figured out a workaround with 36 hours notice. No sleep, no excuses, just results. After that, Vanguard insisted on me in every meeting, on every call. My name was in their vendor contracts under key personnel. I wasn't just managing an account, I was the account. And David knew it, which made today even more absurd. Restructuring? Cutting the one person tethering your largest client? Either David had lost his mind, or someone had convinced him I was replaceable. I packed up my office with the efficiency of someone who'd done it before. A framed photo from a Vanguard Award dinner, a leather notebook filled with years of meeting notes, a thumb drive with nothing proprietary, just my personal records, memos, things I'd kept out of habit. I slid the photo into a box and thought about Vanguard's CEO and what he was going to do when he found out I was gone. This wasn't over, not even close. Looking back, the signs were obvious. It started subtle. A project I'd led for months was quietly reassigned. No announcement, no explanation. Just an email one afternoon letting me know that Evan Mercer would be taking point going forward. I was CC'd on the thread like an afterthought. Meetings I used to run started happening without me. Smaller breakout sessions, David explained when I asked, avoiding eye contact, nothing major. Except when the client asked about project timelines, I had no answers. I wasn't in the room when the decisions were made anymore. Evan started shadowing me more closely too, pretending it was about knowledge transfer, about succession planning, but I knew the truth. He sat in on client calls he had no business attending. He asked questions that had nothing to do with his supposed job responsibilities. Questions about billing cycles, about contract clauses, about personal relationships I'd built with Vanguard executives. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe David was just hedging bets. Maybe they were preparing for growth. Maybe I was being paranoid. But paranoia in business is like instincts in combat. You ignore it at your own risk. 3 weeks before they fired me, I caught Evan in the copy room after hours. He didn't hear me come in. He was scanning pages from my locked file cabinet, detailed work plans, client notes, even a few personal outlines I'd kept to manage Vanguard's notoriously fickle mood swings. He smiled too quickly when he saw me, mumbled something about getting organized. I said nothing, just watched. That night, I started cleaning up my personal folders, moved anything important to encrypted backups, wiped down my work laptop to company standards, set personal reminders to shift my 401k contact information and insurance policies. Not because I had a timeline, because I had a feeling. I didn't tell anyone, not HR, not coworkers, not even friends. If there's one thing the Army taught me, it's that when the blast comes, you don't warn people. You check your own gear first. They were moving against me piece by piece, pretending it was business as usual. Fine. Let them think I was blind. Let them think I was beaten. I was just getting started. Packing up a career is an ugly thing. I didn't bring much to the office to begin with. A habit from a life where you learned not to get too comfortable anywhere. One framed certificate from Vanguard. A couple of pens that actually worked. A clean notebook. I packed methodically, one item at a time, while the buzz of the office carried on around me. People pretended not to notice, eyes flickering up from screens and then back down. Guilt in their posture. Relief it wasn't them. David didn't come by to say goodbye. Neither did Vanessa. They stayed sealed off behind glass doors, as if the contamination might spread. Evan Mercer walked past once, fake sympathy plastered across his face. "Tough break, man," he muttered, not slowing down. I didn't even nod. I boxed my few things carefully, cleared my browser history, signed out of the company intranet, left my ID badge and laptop neatly on the desk. Nothing they could say I didn't return, nothing they could twist later. Before leaving, I took one last walk through the building, past the conference room where I'd saved Vanguard's account, past the break room where I'd stayed late night after night to hit impossible deadlines, past the open offices of people whose careers I'd quietly protected by absorbing blame, by making hard choices so they wouldn't have to. No anger, no scenes, just observation. On my way out, the receptionist, young, nervous, stood up as if to say something. I gave her a small nod, let her off the hook. Then I pushed open the glass doors and stepped into the cold air outside. I didn't look back. I sat in my car for a moment, watching the reflection of the building in the rearview mirror. the same place where I'd given years of my life, the same people who'd decided I was expendable. Fine, they thought they'd buried me. They forgot. I'm the guy who grows things in the dark. I started the engine. I wasn't leaving defeated, I was leaving free. I wasn't home 20 minutes before my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. I almost didn't answer. Instinct said otherwise. Hello? Nathan. It's Elaine Jensen. Vanguard's Vice President of Operations. The woman who once cut a global contract team in half because a deliverable was 2 days late. The woman who didn't call unless it mattered. I heard a rumor, she said, voice tight with controlled anger. Tell me it's not true. I didn't have to ask what she meant. Word spreads fast in this industry, faster than people think. It's true, I said simply. There was a long pause, then colder. We were not informed. I could picture her sitting at her glass conference table, sharp heels tapping the floor, the same exact expression she wore when a supplier once tried to jack up their rates mid-contract. Not my decision, I said. I was let go this morning. More silence, then a clipped breath. Who's handling our account now? Don't know, I said. Didn't stick around for the handoff. Another pause. I could hear her thinking, calculating. You saved this account 3 years ago, she said. Everyone else before you either quit or got fired. I remember, I said quietly. Are you starting your own firm? She asked without preamble. No false sympathy, no corporate HR small talk, just business, just reality. I hesitated, not because I didn't know the answer, but because the answer had weight now. Before today, it had been a plan, a someday. Today, it was something else. Not officially, I said, not yet. You should, Elaine said, sharp, decisive. And when you do, call me first. We don't want to work with anyone else. She hung up without waiting for a reply. I stood there, phone still in my hand, staring out at the thin November light fading over the parking lot. It didn't matter that I was fired. It didn't matter that my desk was cleared and my badge deactivated. I wasn't out of the game. I was the game. And they were about to find that out the hard way. A year ago, I registered Carter Strategic Solutions, LLC. No grand announcement, no LinkedIn posts, just paperwork filed quietly through an online agency, the $120 fee charged to a personal credit card Becky would never see, just in case. I bought a domain name too, cartersolutions.com, and paid for 5 years of hosting. No website yet, no marketing, just a placeholder, a digital footprint, waiting, just in case. I opened a small P.O. box in town under the company name, rented a tiny virtual office downtown with mail forwarding services. Just in case, I kept vendor contacts too, quiet relationships built over years, freelancers, printers, IT consultants, admin support, people who could move fast and keep their mouths shut if needed. Nothing fancy, but enough to build a skeleton crew if the day ever came. Just in case. I never expected to need it this soon. I thought maybe 5 years down the road, when the politics got too thick or the leadership changed again. I thought I had time. But life rarely waits for you to feel ready. As I sat at my kitchen table that night, Elaine's voice still ringing in my ears, I opened my laptop and logged into the LLC account. Everything was still active, still valid. All it needed now was a spark. I spent the next hour refreshing and updating, linked the website to a private client portal, drafted simple service descriptions, created a confidential onboarding packet, set up a secure email address that didn't route through any of my old employer's networks. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't going to blast it all over social media, not yet. I needed to move quietly, surgically. Elaine's call wasn't just loyalty, it was leverage. Proof that at least one massive client would follow me, not the company. And once Vanguard moved, others would smell blood in the water. I didn't need permission. I didn't need revenge. I needed precision. And precision is what I do best. The worst thing you can do after getting blindsided isn't getting mad. It's getting loud. I stayed quiet. No posts, no angry emails, no dramatic goodbyes, just silence. The old company expected me to lash out, to go scorched earth, to make a scene they could use against me if Vanguard came asking questions. Instead, I disappeared. I spent the first week setting up back-end infrastructure, business insurance policies finalized, contracts templated, and reviewed by a lawyer I trusted, accounting software installed and ready. Each night after dinner and a workout, I sat at my kitchen table, building the foundation piece by piece. Nothing flashy, just reliable structures that could support real weight when the time came. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on Vanguard from a distance, watched their LinkedIn page. Quiet mentions about upcoming projects. No public statement about my departure. No new account rep announced. They were stalling. They had to be. Every day that passed without a handoff meant pressure was building somewhere inside those glass walls. I didn't reach out. I didn't hint or poke. I didn't give them a target to punch. Because sometimes the best weapon isn't action, it's absence. The kind of absence that creates questions in rooms you're no longer allowed into. The kind that eats at leadership until cracks form. I knew Vanguard's leadership team well. They didn't tolerate uncertainty. They didn't tolerate disrespect even more. And firing their account lead, without a conversation, without a backup plan, was a massive insult. I could feel the temperature rising through the cracks. All I had to do was wait. And be ready when the first real move came, because it always comes. You just have to be patient enough to watch it unfold. It happened 3 weeks after I was fired. Vanguard called a meeting with my old company, full executive presence, no agenda provided, just a politely worded, mandatory review session. Inside the industry, we called that a loaded gun on the table. From what I heard later through the grapevine, David walked in expecting a standard check-in. Maybe a few minor complaints, a few placations. He didn't get that. Elaine opened the meeting with no small talk, no preamble, just the kind of surgical no-survivor statement only she could deliver. If Nathan Carter isn't managing our account personally, she said, we'll be ending our relationship effective immediately. Not a threat, a fact. Silence fell across the conference room. Half the revenue of their division hung in the air like a guillotine. David scrambled. He introduced Evan Mercer as the new account lead. Promised continuity, promised new efficiencies. Evan did his best. Talked about innovation, streamlined processes, digital transformation, all the buzzwords desperate people reach for when they're in over their heads. It didn't land. Vanguard didn't want new processes. They wanted results. They didn't want efficiency. They wanted certainty. They didn't want Evan Mercer. They wanted me. By the end of the meeting, Vanguard had made their position clear. Reinstate Nathan Carter or we walk. No second chances. David asked for time to reevaluate options. Elaine agreed. 72 hours, no extensions. 3 days to solve a problem they created. 3 days to realize they hadn't fired an employee. They'd fired their anchor. And now they were drifting fast, straight into open water. Truth has a way of surfacing when pressure is high enough. 2 days into the 72-hour ultimatum, I got a call from a former co-worker, someone I trusted, someone who had no reason to lie. Off the record, he said, voice low. It was Evan. I didn't ask, are you sure? I already knew. Evan Mercer, the golden boy. The one who always asked just a little too many questions, who lingered too long outside closed-door meetings, who smiled too much when he didn't win a client over, but smiled even bigger when I did. He'd spent months positioning himself, whispering to leadership about succession planning, about risk management, about outgrowing legacy methods. Translation: Nathan's too old school. We need someone newer, faster, shinier. David bit hard. Probably saw Evan as a future division head, a fresh face to parade around to other clients. Problem was, Evan didn't understand Vanguard. He thought they cared about PowerPoints and polished speeches, about keywords and fancy process maps. They didn't. They cared about deliverables, about trust, about knowing when they picked up the phone at 2 a.m., the guy answering could actually fix it, not schedule a Zoom call 3 days later. By the time I was fired, Evan had already been quietly introduced to Vanguard as part of the new structure, a slow bleed transition that was supposed to ease them into accepting his leadership. Except nobody told Vanguard they were losing the one thing keeping the whole ship together. Now Evan was drowning, and David was too arrogant, or too stupid, to throw him a life jacket. I listened to my former coworker lay it all out, the internal memos, the leadership meetings without me, the fake concerns about burnout and fresh energy. I said nothing for a long time after he finished. "Thanks," I said finally. "Appreciate it." I hung up. No anger, no shouting, just cold clarity. They hadn't just pushed me out. They'd sharpened a knife, handed it to a child, and aimed it at their own heart. And now it was bleeding out all over the carpet. The email came that night. Short, Director. Elaine Jensen didn't waste words. Subject, lunch, body, tomorrow, noon, Avalon Grill, discreet. I showed up early, dressed sharp but simple. Neutral colors, no logos, no old company branding, fresh start already in motion. Elaine was waiting, a half-finished iced tea on the table, laptop closed, eyes scanning the entrance every few seconds. Like always, she was 5 moves ahead. I slid into the chair across from her. No handshake, no pleasantries, just business. "You're starting your own firm," she said. Not a question. "I'm considering it," I said carefully. She nodded once, approving the answer. Testing for hesitation, finding none. "We like you," she said. "More importantly, we trust you." She leaned in slightly. "We have a problem, Nathan. You're aware." I didn't pretend otherwise. "If you're willing," she continued, "Vanguard would be interested in transferring the full account portfolio to your new entity. Direct contract, no middleman." I didn't react. Let her keep talking. "And if things go well," she added, casually swirling her straw, "there are other referrals we might make, quiet ones, discreet ones." Translation, not just Vanguard, other companies too, big ones, bigger than anything I'd handled even under David. "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. "You could demand they rehire me." Elaine smiled thinly. "We don't reward stupidity," she said, "and frankly, if they were foolish enough to fire you, they don't deserve you back. We prefer working with people who understand value, not just price." The server came by with menus. Neither of us even glanced at them. "You have 48 hours, Elaine said, gathering her purse, "to get your structure finalized, contracts ready, invoice system running. We'll be your first client." She stood, offering a rare, genuine smile. "And Nathan," she said over her shoulder, "don't make us regret it." I watched her leave, the door swinging slowly behind her. 48 hours to finish building a company from a skeleton into a real operation. No safety nets, no second chances. Just one shot to step into a future I didn't ask for, but was damn sure ready to own. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even try. Instead, I made lists, prioritized tasks, pulled in every favor that had been quietly waiting for the right moment. By noon the next day, Carter Strategic Solutions was live. Bank accounts opened, contracts finalized, billing systems tested, branding simple but sharp, black, white, deep navy blue. No gimmicks, no fluff, just clarity. The office? A second-story space above a coffee shop downtown. Exposed brick, scuffed wood floors, windows that rattled in the wind. No fancy lobby, no receptionist. Just a heavy door with a simple plaque, Carter Solutions. It was perfect. By 4 p.m., I made my first hire, Jenna Brooks, former project manager at my old firm, smart, disciplined, no patience for corporate games. She'd left 6 months before I was fired, saw the iceberg coming before the rest of us. When I called her, she didn't hesitate. "When do we start?" she said. "Tomorrow," I told her. We didn't have office furniture yet, didn't even have a proper Wi-Fi router. But we had a client, a massive one, Vanguard Industries, and momentum counts for more than a perfect setup any day. That night, I stood alone in the center of the empty office, listened to the distant hum of espresso machines below, smelled burnt coffee grounds and city asphalt cooling in the rain. This wasn't how I'd pictured success. No luxury car, no penthouse suite, no champagne launch party, just a battered laptop, a plastic folding table, a nameplate screwed into the wall with my own 2 hands, and a future no one could take from me again. I smiled. Then I pulled out my phone and wrote the first public announcement of my new life. I kept the post simple. After years in corporate consulting, I'm proud to announce the launch of Carter Strategic Solutions, built on integrity, precision, and results. We're officially open for business. No anger, no finger-pointing, no after being betrayed bitterness, just the facts. I hit post, set the phone down, went back to wiring up the second-hand Wi-Fi router Jenna picked up for $40 on Craigslist. 15 minutes later, the first like popped up, then 3 more, then 10. By the time the router blinked green and connected to the internet, the post had 100 reactions. By dinner, it was over 500. Former colleagues messaged congratulations. Some hinted they'd like to join when I was ready to expand. Vendors I hadn't spoken to in months sent texts. Heard you're building something. We're in if you need anything. Old clients, the ones frustrated with bureaucracy at my old company, sent emails asking if I was taking on new contracts. I didn't gloat, didn't reply with anything but professionalism, because the best kind of revenge isn't loud. It's building something so solid, so undeniable, that the people who tried to break you can only watch from the outside, hands empty, mouths shut. As I refreshed the page one last time that night, I caught sight of a comment tucked between all the others, "About time." No signature, no profile photo, just those 2 words. It didn't matter who wrote it, they were right. It was about time, and I was just getting started. It didn't happen all at once. Collapse never does. First came Vanguard's official termination letter, signed, sealed, final, effective immediately. 40% of revenue gone. David tried to act unfazed, put out a company-wide memo full of spin, strategic realignment, exploring new opportunities, growth mindset. Everyone inside knew it was panic disguised as optimism. 2 weeks later, Meridian Global, another major client, quietly pulled their contracts, said they wanted a different service model. Translation: they saw blood in the water, and they weren't sticking around for the feeding frenzy. Then, Harrowtech Logistics canceled. 3 decades of partnership, gone with a 4-line email. By the end of the month, half the floor was empty. Layoffs, resignations. The recruiters who used to poach junior analysts were now cold-calling senior managers. And Evan Mercer, the golden boy, thrown under the bus by the very leadership he'd tried so hard to impress. He was let go on a Friday, no ceremony, no farewell drinks, just a cardboard box and a security escort. Poetic. David didn't call me himself, of course not. He sent an email through an intermediary. Subject: consulting opportunity. Body: we understand you've launched a new venture. Would you be open to discussing a short-term consulting engagement to assist in client transitions? Translation: please come back and fix the disaster we created. I stared at the email for a full minute. Then I deleted it without replying. No anger, no smugness, just clarity. They hadn't just lost Vanguard, they'd lost the trust they once took for granted. And trust, once broken, doesn't come back. No matter how many consulting contracts you dangle, Carter Strategic Solutions didn't explode overnight. It grew the way real things do, one project at a time, one quiet referral after another, one solved problem at a time. Within 6 months, I had to move out of the office above the coffee shop. We leased a bigger space, still modest, still sharp, still mine. By month 7, I hired 5 more people, not flashy hires, smart ones, people who didn't care about politics or corporate peacocking, just results. Jenna ran operations, Ryan handled analytics, Maya took over client onboarding and communications. Every person mattered. Every role was deliberate. And Vanguard? They didn't just stay, they expanded, handed us 2 more divisions, introduced me personally to 3 new companies, all quietly frustrated with firms run by people like David and Evan. By the end of the first year, our revenue had doubled. By 18 months, it had tripled. We weren't chasing growth, we weren't running ads, we didn't need to. Word spread the old-fashioned way. One client whispering to another in a boardroom, "If you need it done right, call Carter Solutions." We weren't the biggest firm, we weren't the flashiest, but we were the ones who answered the phone at 2 a.m., who didn't make excuses, who delivered. Every time I walked into our office, past the understated logo on the glass door, I reminded myself this wasn't luck, this wasn't mercy, this was built, one decision, one risk, one refusal to break, at a time. And we were just getting started. The view from my new office wasn't much, just rooftops, brick buildings, the edge of the downtown skyline stretching out under a gray afternoon sky. But to me, it looked like freedom. Glass walls, solid oak desk, a door with my name on it, not because it was printed on a corporate directory, but because I built it. Carter Strategic Solutions. No middlemen, no politics, no dead weight, just results. I sat back in my chair, sipping coffee Jenna had dropped off that morning, and thought about everything it took to get here. The Friday morning blindsiding, the cold HR meetings, the way Evan Mercer smiled when he thought he'd won, the desperate emails after it all started crumbling around them. I didn't feel bitter, didn't even feel angry anymore. Because the truth was simple. They didn't bury me, they freed me. David, Evan, the whole rotten system, they thought they were protecting their empire by pushing me out. All they really did was shove me through a door I should have walked through a long time ago. Betrayal is funny like that. Hurts like hell in the moment, feels like the end of something permanent. But sometimes it's the best catalyst there is. The fire that forces you to burn down old comfort zones, the storm that tears the roof off so you finally see the sky. Without that push, maybe I would have stayed. Maybe I would have wasted another decade making other people rich, carrying dead-weight executives on my back. Instead, I was here, leading a team that trusted me, solving problems for clients who valued action over lip service, building something that couldn't be stolen with a memo or a layoff notice, something real, something mine. The soft ping of my email pulled me out of the thought. Another new client inquiry, another referral, another door opening. I smiled, set my coffee down, and got to work. Because if there's one thing betrayal taught me, it's that success isn't the best revenge. Building a life so solid they can never touch you again. That's the real victory. This story was intense, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.